So now I'm going to go on to the Paycheck Protection Program. This is from the Department of the Treasury. The Paycheck Protection Program, the reason people are interested in it is because if you notice, it is fully forgiven if you go through a whole bunch of steps. Okay. Now, from my experience, unless you actually have an accounting department, trying to go through a whole bunch of steps sometimes is really difficult. Okay, but this is a loan and it can become forgiven. This is a loan that you don't actually go to the government to get. Lenders are offering this and you go to the standard SBA lenders. Okay, so what can you do is you can get about 8 weeks of payroll costs, including healthcare benefits. And you can pay, you can also use it for mortgage, rent, and utilities. You notice how it's a little less specific than the $10,000 advance. Okay, so it's fully forgiven. Okay, so you're going to see what you can use it for. It's very specific. You need to show that you're using it for payroll. Okay. You have until June 30th to rehire your employees. Okay, but you have to rehire them. Now you notice with the credit before that we were looking at, as long as you're less than 100 employees, you didn't necessarily have to rehire everyone. Okay. So basically you go through your your SBA lender, and it's actually starting tomorrow. They're accepting applications. Now the percentages that this is for is actually, the one thing about it is it's 250. It is 250% of you can get a loan for up to 250% of your payroll for a certain specific time. How do you figure out what your max loan is based on? You have to go to February 15th, 2019 through June 30th of your 2019 payroll. You figure out what your monthly costs are for that time period. I know it's a kind of wacky type of time period. And whatever your average monthly costs, you're going to, you can do up to 250% of that time. Okay, so that means, so for example, if your average monthly cost was $10,000, you can do up to a $25,000 loan. If your average monthly cost is $100,000 per month, then it's going to be $250,000 that you can get on a loan. Okay, so if you were not in business during that time, you can use January 1st through February 29th to figure out your monthly payroll costs. Okay, now this is very important. If you do access this loan, you have to refinance it to turn it into an economic injury disaster loan. Also, the $10,000 advance, if you get the $10,000 advance and you get the Paycheck Protection Act loan, you actually have to lower the amount that you can get by $10,000. But I think it's worth it considering that you don't have to pay that back. Okay. Here are some things that do not qualify as payroll. Your owner compensation over 100,000. Certain things. There's a qualified sick and family leave credit, but there are other credits that you can use to pay for that. The deferral, you have to go through your payroll company.
Right.
The payroll credit, you have to go through your payroll company.
Right.
The loan, the Paycheck Protection Act loan, we have to get with the lender first. We have to prepare your tax return. They may or may not require interim financial statements, and that will be happy to support you in that. But it's mostly the loan. It's mostly the lender that's going to be doing all the work. We're willing to work with you to talk with the loan officer. That's fine too. But again, let's contact your SBA lender first. We'll assist with the paperwork if there's any paperwork that you need in terms of tax information. That's fine. We're here to do that for you. But again, I'm a lousy salesperson. Try doing it yourself first with a lender, and obviously we'll step in.
Well, I think applying for it seems pretty straightforward, but
Right.
you said there's quite a few forms and follow-up that will need to be done for this to become forgiveness.
Yes. So the thing is, okay, so what do you need to do? Okay, so let's go back to that section. How do you make sure that it's forgiven? Okay, so make sure that that the items you're paying, you're actually paying for it. Okay. Okay, so this is
Are those allowable expenses?
right. That they're first of all
Right.
that they're allowable expenses. Okay.
Right.
Then yes, we can assist with you. Regarding what we need to do is we need to show, that the payments that that it actually went to things that are allowable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And basically this is presenting the payroll tax filings to show that
We actually paid payroll.
that you actually paid payroll. That payroll didn't change.
Now, on this program, are cannabis companies excluded again as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, here, hold on. I actually have the law.
Illegal under federal. Okay.
Here you go. Illegal activity.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So now, so if you're going to keep, if you know you're going to keep your employees, or this will help you to keep your employees, this is a good program for you.
Okay.
The reason, and that's, however, there are definitely a lot of hoops. And if you're a slightly larger company, and you have an accounting department, they'll make sure, we can also assist to make sure that you're hitting all the points to make this happen.
Okay.
But if you're, an even smaller businesses trying to do this just on your own to make sure that that you don't lay the proper people off, it's going to get a little more tricky. And so that's why I'm thinking, do the easy things first, and then look at the Paycheck Protection Program.
Got it.
That's the way I would approach it. Okay. Okay, so let me just point. Okay, so are there any other questions about the Paycheck Protection Program?
The employee and employer compensation that's available to up to 100 grand, does that mean if your pay is above 100 grand, you're only eligible up to 100 grand, or you're not eligible at all?
Up to 100 grand.
Okay, and is that just cash, or does that include things like healthcare costs?
Well, healthcare, I mean, most people don't have unusual healthcare, because of the certain ERISA rules. So your healthcare costs would still, you can have healthcare costs above the 100,000.
Okay, thank you.
And is it just for that 8-week period, or is it for is it annual?
No, this is annual.
All right, just confirming.
Right. If you get an emergency disaster loan and you get the Paycheck Protection Program, you have to refinance the emergency disaster loan if you get the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, except for the $10,000, realistically, you're probably going to go for the Paycheck Protection Program first if you're going to try to apply for these loans. We discussed the $10,000 cash advance that you get as long as you're a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, or a business entity. You have to apply for the COVID-19 disaster loan, and then you get the $10,000 as long as you spend it on obligations in 2020, such as mortgage, rent, payroll, or any debt obligations that the company has. You don't have to pay back the $10,000. That's one. We also discussed that you can defer your payroll taxes for the end half. You can pay it back in 2021, and then the other half in 2022, and anyone can qualify for that, and you do that through your payroll company. Secondly, we talked about payroll credits that are done through your payroll company, but this is if you had significant losses in revenue, if you went down by more than 50%. And lastly, what we talked about is the Paycheck Protection Program, which it is a loan. However, if you make sure that you have the same amount of payroll, you're able to get some of it forgiven. 8 weeks worth of payroll forgiven.
Have any idea of the turnaround time for the $10,000 loan?
It's supposed to be 3 business days.
Pretty quick.
Wow, thank you.
Right. So what I filled out if you have access to the video portion of this webinar, you do that 5-minute application, you're supposed to get your money in 3 business days. Okay.
There's a few of us on here who are independent contractors or sole proprietors. For that $10,000 grant, I guess you could say, how are they figuring out payroll on that?
Okay, so the $10,000 grant has nothing to do with payroll.
Okay.
So you literally put it in for $10,000. Now, this is very important. Make sure that you're paying rent, utilities, or debt obligations in 2020.
Okay.
That's the key.
And as a sole proprietor or independent contractor, are we able to apply for the PPP?
Yes, you can. Starting tomorrow, in fact. However, okay, actually, the one thing I didn't check on, if you don't have employees, if it's just you, I'm not sure how they calculate employees. Whether you as an employee, you have loan forgiveness for yourself. If you don't, as a sole proprietor. Because just for those that are not aware of this, if you're a sole proprietor, you don't actually have payroll. You pay the equivalent of payroll taxes known as self-employment taxes at the end of the year. Or actually, I mean, every quarter, but it goes on your income tax return rather.
Hi, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
One for a nonprofit, for a church. Would they qualify for either the 10,000 or the PPP?
Okay, so the 10,000, yes, you would qualify for the 10,000. The Paycheck Protection Program, I'm not sure.
Okay, second question. Sorry, I forgot it. I'll come back.
No problem. Go ahead. Oh, okay.
For the $10,000 grant, are you able to apply for it based on an estimate of your P&L and your COGS costs, or do your numbers have to be spot on?
Okay, so that's a good point. We don't know. But it's not a P&L. It's your revenue through January 31st, 2020. For the 12-month through January 31st, 2020, and your cost of goods sold. So for those that are not familiar with cost of goods sold, if you have products, cost of goods sold is your cost of those products. If, let's say, you're a dentist, you probably don't have cost of goods sold. So basically, you just have your revenues.
Does that apply to items that you resold? We're mostly a design firm. We sold, I think, a few computers last year with a design package. But for the most part, I don't think we have any cost of goods sold.
I mean, was it like 10,000, 20,000?
Yeah, certainly under 30.
Right. Are you? Yeah. So that's fine. That would be a de minimis. You don't have to show that as cost of goods sold. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
So just be your revenue. Okay.
Is there any hope that the government can ever repay this debt?
Okay. So I think that's more of a geopolitical question than anything else. When I figure out how to solve the world's problems, we'll have a webinar next week once I've resolved all those issues, and I will let you know.
I think you're going to be paying for it later in your taxes.
Yeah.
One way or another.
One way or another, yes, yes. I don't disagree with you. It is
Either
what
you
it is.
inflate the money so you're paying debt with inflated money, or the whole thing comes down and we're all back to gold to coins again.
Okay.
I had a quick question. I was going through this application process for the disaster loan assistance, and
Okay.
they don't have a, well, it says EIN SSN for sole proprietorship. It's not allowing you to put in Social Security now. Do you think they're holding off on independent contractor applicants until the April 10th deadline, or?
No, that doesn't sound right because, no, maybe there's something else going on. Actually, my niece, someone gave her a 1099 miscellaneous. She's 20 years old. And of course, she didn't know what she was getting into. And I did have her apply for this loan.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, for the grant at least. And she was able to use her social security number. Now, I have found that it's a little tricky, especially if your screen is really bright. Sometimes you're not clicking the right thing or something like that. Did you originally click yourself as a sole proprietor as the type of organization that you are?
I'm sorry?
When you put in the form, did you list yourself as a sole proprietor?
No, I went through the process that you started in the beginning, eligible entity verification. It says applicant is an individual who operates under sole or that employee or as an independent contractor. So do they have a separate form for independent contractors?
No. And I was successfully able to put in an independent contractor with this. I'm thinking,
Jamie, just kind of just type it in as a social, even though it's in the format of an EIN, just type it in as a social.
Okay.
I mean, even though it's in that format, just stick it in there because there's something wrong with their website there.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening. It's
yeah, totally.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can I talk about disincentives? We have a situation where we have a renter for 1/3 of our building, our commercial building, who is a dentist. And as you just were talking about, the dental practice, the California Dental Association has shut that down for at least 2 months.
Right.
His feeling is that there's a possibility that it might go even longer. So he's asked us to forgive all of his rent. Which is really nice, but unfortunately we still have a mortgage.
Yes.
Yes. So what would be the disincentive that he would be facing to not want to apply for one of these programs? It seems to me like what you've explained seems fairly clear cut and not too easy, other than the very, very last one where you have to go through SBA, which is always a pain.
So, well, I guess would $10,000 cover your rent for 2 months?
Actually, it would.
Well, see if you can get them to do it. I mean, it would definitely cover it. Now, obviously, this is beyond the scope of, see, if I wanted to be a negotiator, I'd be a lawyer. Unfortunately, I'm friendly. I'm a lousy negotiator.
So I could apply for the $10,000 to pay my mortgage with, even though he's not paying my rent.
Yes, but I'd still try. I definitely, obviously, if he owes you the rent,
yeah, I'm not asking you for negotiation. I'm just saying
for this also.
It doesn't seem too much. It doesn't seem to be that much of a problem, other than the SBA section of it.
Right. Exactly. It is a fairly simple process. To be honest, I mean, this is literally they want to get money into the system. And that's just one weird way of doing it. Why did they do it this way? I have no idea. But that's just another way of getting money into the economy. It's literally what it is.
Thank you.
I have a timing question.
Yes.
You said there's a staggered application for the PPP through the SBA. There's a limited funds. Did I read that correctly? And
Yes.
how fast should we act on that portion?
I'd act on it starting tomorrow. I mean, if you can, for the PPP.
So if we're going to do the $10,000 grant also tomorrow, then, right? Or
Yeah,
tonight?
well, I mean, I would do it today. I mean, they're limited. I mean, when I say limited, I mean, I don't know that the funds are actually going to run out, but you know, they appropriated a certain amount of money. I don't remember how much money exactly it is, but it is first come, first serve for all of these programs.
All right,
now,
thank you.
Payroll deferral is not first come, first serve, and same thing with payroll credit. But these other programs, it is first come, first serve.
You know, what if we're still open as a critical industry and we're making payroll? There's really no reason to take that deferral then, right? Other than cash flow?
Cash flow.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Or just in case, just to have it. You can have it as a reserve in the background too, in case you need it. You know, it's always nice to have that.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so my wife is starting to text me.
Must be dinner time.
No, she heard her hand, so I have to make dinner. Okay, so let's take one more question.
Mac and cheese again.
Well, I've gotten a little more sophisticated in my culinary skills over the years, so it's a little better than mac and cheese.
Oh, good.
We'll have chicken teriyaki, just like we did yesterday, the day before. How's that?
Abraham, Tara, awesome.
Okay, so last question. Does anyone have one more question?
You'll be sending us out copies of everything that you've been showing us here, correct?
Yes, so Tara's on the line, and
Okay.
she's happy to know that she knows what she's doing tomorrow.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Hi,
Tara.
Tara. Hi, Rachel.
So,
So if you guys want to harass me, feel free. It's all good.
So I was trying to upload files with GoToMeeting, but you have to do it kind of like a GoToMeeting training or something like that. And, you know, so unfortunately I wasn't able to add that as part of the, part of this process.
Okay.
Tara, do you want to let them know your telephone number and email so that they can reach out to you and give you their email? We can send them everything there.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Got nothing else to do.
right, yeah, of course. You know, it's only tax season. Hey, I'm just filing my nails. But yeah, no, my number, for everyone that doesn't know me or what have you, it's 310-237-3070. And then to leave me a personal voicemail, please press my extension 15. You'll be prompted if I'm away from my desk or what have you. And then I'll call you right back, and then I'll help you with whatever you guys need.
Okay. And
if you want to call Tara, do you want to give them your email as well so they can email you right now, and then we can get right back to them with all the documents?
Okay,
Yeah, no, for sure. It's
this is why I'm not the salesperson.
Okay, so it's T for Tara, T for Thomas, and it's O'Connor, OCONNOR, good Irish name.
You don't sound very Irish.
Yeah, no, well, I grew up in England and Ireland, so anyways, that's a whole other story. We can have that discussion when you call me. It's at T O'Connor at abfinwright.com. Apple Brother Finn Wright, WRIGHT.com.
Here, wait a minute. See if I can.
And if you guys you can always just feel free to call me tomorrow. I'm always in the office from 6:30, and I will get right back to you.
Perfect.
All
If
right.
anybody needs any further clarification and conversation, like a personal conversation on your situation, give us a call. Let us know. We can definitely have a call, conversation about your particular situation as well. Thanks
Great.
everybody for joining.
Yeah, it's good to see Abraham still working.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great info.
Thank you for your
All right.
time.
Great info,
Bye,
Thanks
guys.
everybody. Have a good night. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Take
Good
care.
night. Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.
Oh.